Hey guys, this is going to be a quick video and pretty easy for you to do on your own, but this is called the distance formula. And the distance formula is derived actually from the Pythagorean theorem, which you did last year in the 8th grade. And the distance formula states D equals the square root of x2 minus x1, that whole entire quantity is squared, plus y2 minus y1, and that whole quantity is squared. Now, where do we get x1, y1, x2, y2? They come from two coordinates. The distance formula is used to find the distance between two coordinates. Now, one thing to always keep in mind is your distance is never going to be negative. It's always going to be positive. So if you get a negative answer or you try to take the square root of a negative, you have done something wrong and you need to go back and check. This will always be calculator active unless it's small numbers that come out to be even. This is not something that you would find on the inactive portion of the test. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I've been going through your EOC packet and working everything out. If I'm not mistaken, I believe there is one that uses the distance formula, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So we use it when we're either given points or coordinates that it asks us to graph, or we're given a graph and we have to find the points and then find the distance from there. So first, we're going to just find the distance between these 2 points. Now, I know this isn't the greatest video, but just kind of go with me. So find the distance between these 2 points. So the first thing you want to do is label x1 and y1 and x2 and y2. Now, this is just like when we're finding slope. When you find the slope, you label your points, the first coordinate and the second coordinate. Now, we're just going to use the distance formula, which says we're going to take the square root of the quantity x2, which is -3, minus x1, which is 5, and we're going to square that, plus the quantity y2, which is 2, minus a -8. Okay, now you can type it in your calculator just like that if you want to. For me, I don't like to do that. I get too mixed up. There's too many negatives, too many positives, too much room for error, in my personal opinion. Now, you can leave it like that. That's fine, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do a little bit of simplifying here before I put it into my calculator. I'm going to have -3 minus 5, which is -8 squared, plus 2 minus -8, which is actually going to become a positive, so that's going to be 10 squared. Again, you can type this into your calculator from here. That's fine. You just don't drop those parentheses, because that whole quantity is squared. Don't be typing -8 squared. You need to have parentheses -8 parentheses squared. We talked about this before. When you substitute any value, you always have parentheses or you will not get the right answer. So be very, very careful here. Okay. Now again, I could go ahead and type that in my calculator. I'm going to go one more step. And -8 squared is -8 times -8, which is 64. Plus 10 squared, which is 10 times 10, is 100. Okay? Now I'm going to type this in my calculator. I've got my old one here. Square root of 64 plus 100. Now mine's a little different from yours. If you're using the one on your phone, it's going to be a little bit different. And your yellow ones at school, which I don't have one here at home, is a little different. So I've got to close out my parentheses. And I get approximately 12.8 as my answer. And it will be, I guess, square unit, or it's units. That's the distance. How far apart. Now, you could plot these points on a graph and approximate. Now, here's the deal. A diagonal, you can't sit there and count each exact little square, okay? Now, you could use Pythagorean theorem to find the distance. This diagonal would be like the hypotenuse C, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, but you don't have to do that. Now, here's a second problem for you to try. -7, -1, and 6, -2. So go ahead and label your coordinates and work it out. D equals, and I'm really struggling here, y'all. Okay. So it's going to be 6 minus -7 squared plus -2 minus -1 squared And you can type that all in your calculator. You can do a little bit more work. Whatever you want to do. It's going to turn into a plus. So it's going to be 13 squared plus -1 squared, which is essentially 1. So I'm going to type that all in my calculator. And I get approximately 13.04. I rounded to the 100th this time because I didn't have anything in the tenths. All right, so that's using the distance formula when given points. I'm going to do a separate video using the graph just because YouTube won't let me upload but so much. So I'm going to do a separate one for the graph.